All right, so we have the ability to list out the to-dos. The next step for us is for someone to be able to click on these to-dos to say, all right, I want to see this to-do in full, and so that I can either complete it, maybe change the title or the memo, important, or I can also delete it. There's like 3 big things that are going to happen. We're going to focus first on just making that page, being able to see the information and also update that information. So, as always, first step, we got to go make a URL path for this. So let's go ahead and move into our URLs. And this one's going to be slightly different because we have to make it so that we can take in information like a primary key for that particular to-do so that we can find it. So let's go ahead and copy this line that we have for a path here. And we could go ahead and just have it be, strictly after the URL, like, todoo.com/1, but I like it a little bit more organized than that. So I'm going to do to-do/ and then I'm going to take the primary key. So I'm going to specify that this is an int that we're looking for in the URL. And I'm going to give it the name to-do_pk so that we know, okay, we're looking for the to-do primary key. We're going to go ahead and say, rather than current to-dos, we're going to say view to-do, singular. Okay, we'll go ahead and paste that through. We'll save this file. Now move over to our views. We've got a new function here, so I'm going to go ahead and copy what we have for current, paste this in, and I'm going to change this to view to-do. Excellent. So that takes in the request, but also that primary key that we set. So I'm going to go back to URLs and copy this to make sure I have it exactly. I'm going to copy that, come back, paste that in. So now we have these 2 parameters. Okay. So with that in place, we need to go and grab a to-do from the database, and we know what the primary key is. Now, we've done this before, and this is a great time for a challenge. Okay. So I want you to do the next bit for me to just make it so that we can grab the to-do from the database with this primary key, send it forward to a template that you need to go also create. Okay, so a couple of steps here, but this is totally in your wheelhouse. Go ahead, hit pause now. All right, hopefully that went well. First step for us was we had to grab the to-do, and this is a great time to use that awesome little function, the get object or 404. So up here at the shortcuts, we're going to go ahead and do our get underscore object underscore or underscore 404. Great. So then we're going to come back down and say that to-do is equal to get object or 404. And then inside of here first, we have to pass in the class that we're looking for. So in this case, we're looking for capital to-do. And then we also have to pass in what the primary key should be equal to, which in this case, which is our to-do pk. So then we'll take that to-do, singular to-do, pass it forward. Great. Now I need to create a template for this. So I'm going to change the name here to be view to-do.html. So I'm going to copy this, come to our templates, right-click new file. Oops, I've got to rename that to .html. to-do.html. Excellent. So inside of here, I'm going to reuse, like, for example, what we have at home. Paste this in, and I will just say that I want to list out the to-do.title for the time being. Okay. So let's go ahead and save this. Also the views, back to our home page, reload. And let's look at, for example, buy cheese. So buy cheese is number 2. So we're going to come here and say, all right, I want to go to to-do/2. And look at that. Buy cheese shows up. This is excellent. This is a step in the right direction. So now that we have this, I think it'd be really helpful that, we can make it so that these links, or essentially these to-dos here, will link to the actual view page. So let's go ahead and go back to our code for the current to-dos. And let's just go ahead and wrap all of this inside of an A tag. So I'm going to do an opening A tag here. And then we'll end it down below. And the href on this, meaning where it's trying to go to, is a URL. And we want to go to, let's go to our URLs. We want to go to view to do. But we also have to pass in our parameter, which is going to be the to-do.id. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Come back, reload this page. Oh, and I've messed up. I shouldn't have wrapped this inside of curly brackets. Forgot that we were already inside of some curly brackets. Okay, so save this. Now with those things gone, reload. This is looking a lot better. So look, buy cheese, hit back. Oh, and make a website like these are showing up. Great. This is just an awesome tool to make things that much simpler. Now let's make it so, for example, this make website, I had set like a memo. I had set whether or not it was important. What if I wanted to make changes to those things? Well, a great way to both show this and let the user change things is to display that form so that the user can see it and make whatever changes necessary that they need. So let's go ahead and go back to our views.py. And what we want to do here is quite similar to what we have with our create to do. We actually want to pass forward a to-do form, but we want to use a to-do form that is actually filled in with some information. So let's go ahead and make a new line after we grab the to-do object where we'll make a form. So we're going to say form is equal to a new to-do form, okay? Remember, this is just like what we've done before, but rather than having it be an empty to-do form, we're going to pass in what we already have in the to-do object. This is so cool. So if you have a form that's been created from a model, you can actually pass forward an instance of that model, an object of that model, and it will fill in that information for you that exists. So for example, if I say in here, instance, and I set this equal to the to-do that we just grabbed from the database, and then inside of this dictionary, I'm also going to pass forward a form, okay? And then we'll, pass forward our form here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, come back to our view to do. I'm going to have the title, but then I'm also going to display the form as paragraph. And let's go ahead and wrap this in a little form tag. So I'm going to do a form opening there. Let's close it up here. And let's go ahead and make the action on this equal to a post. Eventually we'll come back and set everything up that we need to, but let's go ahead and reload this page. And ooh, look at this. So I really want you to notice this. When I did to do 3, it gave us a form, but it's filled in with the information of that object. Like if I go back and do it for number 2 only has a title. It doesn't have the memo or important, and I go back to 3. Like these things are ready. So if I want to, I could, say I want to make a cool app instead of a website. And, maybe I'll change the title here as well. Eventually, we want to have a save button here that when we hit that, it makes that through. But it's so nice that it's just already set up for us here and that information's filled out inside of the form. Like, look how simple this was. Inside of our views.py, all we had to say was to do form, the instance is equal to this to do, okay? So if someone's going to be saving some information, they're going to be sending a post back to this view to do. We're going to use this as like both the view and the update function. We have to know whether or not they are doing a post or a get. So in either case, whether they are posting or getting, we should have access to this to do object. So let's go ahead and copy this line where we check to see if it's a get. And then we'll also have an else here in case it was a post. And just change what's going on in different situations. So in this case, I'm going to cut this code and paste it down if it's a get. And then let's talk about what happens if it's a post. So if it's a post, they're going to be taking the information from the form here inside of this view to do and be posting it. So let's go ahead and add a button here so that they can actually submit it. And so we're also going to have to do the CSFR token, CSR. I can't even spell this. Let's go into like our login, for example, and let's just copy both this button. I'm going to take this back and paste this in. And then I'm also going to go grab the CSFR token. Okay, we'll go ahead and paste that in there. Great. So with that in place, we don't want this to say login. We want this actually to say something like save, to tell them, hey, this is how you can save that. And here action, this should be method. I'm going to change that to method. I'm just realizing, okay, save that. So if someone submits this form, that means it's going to post it here. And so that takes us to this else. And then the situation is we've got to say, okay, what's the new form data? Let's take this, save it into the database. And this is actually fairly close to what we've seen from up above here. Like we're actually going to be taking the form that we got and posting it. So in fact, what we can do is go ahead and copy what it is that we have here. So I'm going to take this line of code, just paste it down here below. Okay, so once we have our form, what we're going to do is we don't have to do this, save and say commits equal to false because we don't have to set the user or anything. We can just save it. We can just say, lowercase here, form.save, just like that. Now, with this, we do still want to try and wrap this or wrap this in a try except because there might be some situation where we got like some bad data or something like that. And the same value error is going to come up. So I'm just going to copy this same line here where we say try. Okay, and let's tab this over. And I have an except that's associated with this. Okay. And we'll have different situations. So if we get the value error, meaning that someone gave us bad information, we're going to send them back the following. And we'll just say, with this, we're also going to pass forward the term error. Okay. I'm messing all up here. Okay, let's see. I've got my ending curly bracket, and then I'm going to say error. And the value of that is bad info. Okay. And then let's go back to our view to do, and let's add a little error here. Great. So that will display that if there is an issue, but hopefully there shouldn't be. But assuming this all works out and someone is able to successfully save this, we should probably just send them back to the current to-do. So I'm going to copy this same line of code that says redirect, and this will send them back. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Check out our code, see how it looks. So I'm going to reload this page. Look, now we have this nice little save button. Let's say, for example, I don't think make websites should be bold anymore. So I uncheck important and I save this. Oh, and I see what the issue is here. So to kind of walk you through the mistake that I made, here, when we are trying to save the form, it takes the information that came via the post, turns it into this to-do form, and then it tries to save it. Now, included with this is actually the user ID. So up here when we were creating a new user, we weren't specifying any of that. But because here we created a to-do form with an instance, it already has that ID. All of this is to say, the way to fix this is we just say, when we create a to-do form, we're going to pass in the request.post, but we're also going to say the instance is equal to to-do. So this will help it know that this is an existing object and we're trying to do an update, okay? So if we save this, come back to our page, let's view number 3, and I'm going to uncheck important, save that. Now you can see we come back to list, and look, this isn't bold. Let's say I go to buy cheese, and I actually want this to be buy hot dogs, and let's do Z. I like hot dogs, and make it important, and I save this, boom, look, all of a sudden that's changed there. Now, one thing that I want to emphasize here is that we will only list to-do objects that belong to someone. So for example, this buy hot dogs, which has the ID of 2, right? Like if I go back to my database here and I say, let's reload this, buy hot dogs, and I change this to say, you know what, this is actually now belongs to Haley, okay? If I do that and I come back to list, well, it doesn't show it anymore. But look what happens if I go to /to-do and number 2. I can see all the information. So this is not good. This means that any user can just enter in an ID up here and say, oh, I want to see this to do, that to do, even if it doesn't belong to me. And they can even make changes. That's not a good thing. So in order to fix this, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, if someone is going to be getting a to-do, we have to make sure it belongs to this user. So we're going to say to-do, the primary key, all that good stuff. And then we're also going to say user is equal to request.user. Okay, so by doing this, it says not only look for this to-do object with this primary key, but also where the user is equal to this. So if the users don't match, it's going to return a 404. So I'm going to come back and reload this page, and look at that. It doesn't work because it doesn't belong to us. But if I go to number 3, which does belong to us, everything's okay. And even if, I go back to number 2, okay, it doesn't work. But if on my database side here, if I go to buy hot dogs, which is my number 2, and I change this back to be belonging to Nick, and I save this, now when I reload, everything's working. So that's nice to have a little bit of security there to say, only you can see your to-dos and make changes to them.